Hi, this is Bob Abbate, and I'm coming to you from my home this morning. I'm excited because today is a big day. Today we're heading back to the office in downtown Bridgeport. I'm proud of the way the Bammers have worked together, even though we weren't together during this time. We haven't been in the office since March 13th, but even though we were apart, we were never apart, if you know what I mean. Thanks to all of you who participated in our Marketing Your Way Back webinar this past Friday. I appreciate all the positive feedback we received, and as promised, here's a recording of that webinar. If you'd like to get in touch with any of the panelists, I've added their contact information here. Speaking for all the panelists, we're here for you. We're here to help you in any way we can, so please reach out to us. We're all happy to have a conversation. Congratulations to all of you who have stepped up and have been grinding to save your businesses, to keep things going, keep your staff employed, and to demonstrate the commitment to the communities and the customers that you serve. We haven't come this far to only come this far. Enjoy this replay, and please reach out to me if I can be of any assistance to you. Thanks.
This is Dan Onofrio with the Bridgeport Regional Business Council, representing the Bridgeport, Stratford, and Trumbull Chambers of Commerce. Thank you so much for your time this morning. I'd like to thank the panelists as well for dedicating their time. It's an interesting time, a lot of uncertainty out there, a lot of businesses trying to figure out how they're going to reposition their businesses and how can they set themselves up for a strong recovery. And I can't think of a better group of people to help us navigate that. But just the topic of marketing and messaging, it's now probably more important than ever to position your business and leverage the marketing and opportunities that exist out there, especially as we all look to reposition our businesses and focus on recovery and getting our businesses back to growth mode. So I'd like to again, thank our panelists from Connoisseur, Lamar, Effectv, and of course, Bob Abbate and BAM Marketing. I think we've got a great discussion lined up ahead of you. So if there's anything that you need from us at the Business Council and the Chambers, we're here for you as well as an additional resource. And at this time, I'd like to pass it to President and CEO of Bob Abbate Marketing at BAM Marketing. Bob, take it away. Thanks for having us.
Hey, Dan. Thanks for the intro, and thanks for helping us promote this. We are indebted to you for helping us handle the reservations for this. And I got to make a comment that, the information that's coming at us all during this crisis, the stuff we get out of the SBA and the stuff we get from the news is useful, but the real good info is coming from your local chambers of commerce. The BRBC has been invaluable by putting out information. I urge you to go to their website. They have a great resource page there. So check them out at brbc.org. We have some great guests today. And I think, we're all in this and trying to figure it all out. We've never been here before. And today's panelists will help us figure out how to market our way out of this. So first up this morning, if I can figure out how to get her up here. Give me a second. Oh, there she is Kristin Okesson.
Hello.
Kristin is with Connoisseur Media Connecticut and is responsible for what you hear coming out of your speakers. If you listen to WeBe 108, WPLR, Star 99.9, and a bunch of other radio stations. So Kristin, thanks for being here this morning.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate the invite, Bob, and I echo the sentiment of the importance of chambers. The BRBC and other chambers around the state are going to be so important as we move forward and rebuild. So a couple things. Connoisseur Media is locally owned, based in Westport. Our studios and where I sit today here in Milford. I'm actually in work today. Radio is always on, so we are essential, and we've been here since the beginning. We have 6 radio stations here, and Bob asked me to speak about radio and solutions for marketing your way back, which comes rather easy for me as I've worked in radio. Actually, Jim Simonetti, one of our panelists, hired me a while ago. Thank God for that. And I've been working in radio for the last 20, 25 years. I thought on April 30th, I think her name is Indra Nooyi. She's the former chairwoman of Pepsi, and she's leading the Connecticut Reopen Advisory Group. She stated in a briefing in Hartford that it is more important than ever to figure out marketing programs to bring consumers back into establishments, because if you look at what's happening in Georgia as an example, consumers are kind of staying away. They are tentative. And so right now we are working with customers on tailoring their messages because people are looking for safety, they're looking for convenience, they're looking to do business with people who are local, who they trust, and can give them good value. So a couple things as I was thinking about what to share today. Yesterday on Chaz and AJ, we interviewed Jimmy Koplik, who many of you know. He's part of the Amphitheater Project. He's the head of Live Nation and kind of Connecticut's concert guru. And he was saying regarding concerts, he believes all major tours will be canceled until early 2021, but he sees hope for running smaller shows with appropriate guidelines. We know Mohegan Sun's opening up on June 1st, but the sentiment was we can open, but we're not sure concert goers will show up. And we've had a lively debate on the air with listeners about reopening hair salons, barbers, and the caller sentiment is definitely split. Some people want to let their hair grow out forever, and others need a haircut, want a haircut now. And so as we reopen, we have to be aware of the needs of the consumer. And the question is, if we build it, will they come? And so that's, I think, where we as a radio company can fit into the reopening plans. There's an old adage, which we talk about on the air a lot through commercials. When times are good, you should advertise. And when times are bad, you have to advertise. And as business owners, you're passionate and committed to reopening, and you're doing all you can with face masks and sanitizing and plexiglass screens and social distancing. But remember, part of the reopening plan needs to include telling your story and inviting people in. And so the number one thing we offer is a connection. Radio is the ultimate word of mouth advertising. You're heard in a trusted environment with personalities that people like and trust. And radio is filled with current local information, news, traffic, weather, and your ads are part of that conversation. So think of your ads as mini news stories, allowing you to talk to thousands of people. In fact, Connoisseur Media's 6 radio stations reach over 1.2 million people. So take our own Chaz and AJ morning show on 95.9 The Fox and WPLR as an example. Whether they're interviewing 2020 high school graduates or it's AJ riding a bike in the studio to raise money for a mask giveaway, these guys are your buddies. They're trying to help you and they connect with you. And maybe you want to laugh, so you might tune into Anna and Raven on Star 99.9, or you want to know what's going on in Bridgeport, so that might be Paul Pacelli on WICC. Or you just want to feel a sense of calm and comfort, and that could be Storm and Norman or Danny Lyons from Levy 108. The point is that personalities drive everlasting connections with people in the local community. So Bob asked me to talk about specific solutions that we are offering, and we have developed tailored solutions, reopening programs for businesses. So we have 6 category-specific plans, all designed to be impactful, informative, and cost-effective to help businesses reopen successfully. So we have programs for automotive, healthcare, home improvement, legal, salon, spas, fitness, financial. You've all heard the ads about contactless delivery, curbside pickup, sanitized buildings. It's getting a little tired, and it should be a part of your message, but it's got to be more. So what we do is connect people using a one-on-one approach and tell your story. So besides reopening programs, I always say we have the original social media influencers. These are personalities that are connecting, especially through product endorsements. So in thinking about safety and about trust and convenience and value and local, our team can help tell your story using not just radio, but what we might refer to as embedded advertising or native advertising. So perhaps that's an Instagram photo of our talent using your product, an interview, a podcast hosted by you and our talent virtually about your business. So we like to use video, radio, and all kinds of different forums to connect our personalities and tell your story. So we're not just going to tell you that Tony from iToro's Appliance is a nice guy who will treat you right, but we'll show you through embedded content using our personalities and testimonials. So, I think in closing, Bob wanted me to speak for about 5 minutes or so. I think it's just important to remember that radio fills a very important role. We're a trusted source that people turn to in good times and in bad times. And that's both on the listener side and the advertiser side. We are used to working with advertising agencies alongside the client and building brands and building relationships one-on-one. And that's a big part of what we do. And I think as you hear everybody talking today, the most important thing is that radio complements and amplifies other media. So it's not a one solution, it's a multifaceted approach to help connect consumers to your business. Radio served our communities in times of need, whether that's with information, companionship, or escape from the world with lots of different things. So now with many people still homebound, we find that they're craving any sort of human interaction even more. They're craving hearing voices that are familiar, and we need to create custom programs that will help people feel comfortable coming into businesses as best as we can. So, I would just challenge everyone to be relevant, to be thoughtful, and to think about custom rather than cookie cutter. And I know that we're happy here to help devise some plans for people.
Kristin, thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, radio here at BAM, radio is an important part of our media mix. And Kristin, you mentioned iToro Appliance and Tony iToro. When we have one of your air personalities down at iToro, I'm thinking about in a normal year at this point, we would have had Stormin Norman or Danny Lyons down at iToro,
Yep,
out in front of the store with a big old Weber grill, cooking up burgers and dogs during one of your remotes, and people would be stopping by, and lots of people. So we look forward to getting back to that soon.
as do we.
Yeah, thank you. So next up is Eric Lambert. Eric is from Lamar Outdoor. Lamar has the most significant footprint of billboards in Southern Connecticut. Alexa's talking to me. I wasn't talking to you. I'm happy to welcome Eric to our Marketing Your Way Back webinar.
Thanks, Bob. So, as you mentioned, so Lamar is a nationwide company, 46 states. I handle Connecticut and all of Western Massachusetts. And for a long time, I was down in the Fairfield County office. Right now, I'm up in Hartford, but kind of merged all together. So Bob asked me to talk about kind of what's going on in the billboard world, especially over the past few months. So I want to take a step back and talk. We had some changes in January that really made some big effects on what was happening now. So our metrics are provided by a company called Geopath. They're kind of the Arbitron and Nielsen and the other medias. And so they provide us with impression and demographic information for every billboard out there. And they made some big changes on the way they gathered their data. Previously, everything would be from DOT counts. And those are good, but the information was only as good as the DOT that was supplying it. There was no seasonal information. There was usually a flat line that impressions are X amount on a single billboard throughout the year. And we knew there were some variations to that throughout the summer or the winter, but we would just use an average throughout the year. Now they have a new, much better understanding of how traffic flows and trips based on mobile trip data. So what they're doing is they're tracking cell phones. So your cell phone information is being used to find out where you start your trip and where it ends, and every billboard you go by. So now we know variations on daily traffic changes, the time of day, even speed. Even if you sit in traffic, we now know excuse me, certain times a day, how that can affect the impressions of our billboards. So it gives us a better picture of what's really happening out there. So it's been interesting now with these past 8-9 weeks with COVID. It's hurt the billboard industry for sure. There's been less traffic on the roads, less people are traveling, spending less time in their cars. So our impressions have been down for sure. With this new technology, it's allowing us to know week to week what's actually happening in the marketplace. And we never would have been able to do this if this had happened last year. It's also giving us an opportunity to go back and fulfill any obligations for any impressions that were missed for these current advertisers. And quite honestly, Fairfield County was the hardest hit. You guys were the first ones in, and you're probably, it looks like, going to be the last ones out. But there's been a recovery over the past few weeks. Starting on the week of April 13th, there was a big jump. And there's been increased traffic every single week up until my latest data, which is about 3 weeks ago. It runs about 2 weeks out. So we're estimating right now we're about 80% of where we normally would be. And with next week, with the state opening up this week, we're expecting a pretty good jump. We're also learning that summer travel is expected to be higher than normal because people aren't going to be traveling on the airlines, or it's going to be limited. So people still want to go on vacation and are probably going to be leaning towards driving instead of flying and staying somewhat local. So we're looking for a bigger bump this summer. So, look what's happening right now with our advertising. We're starting to pick up. This past 2 weeks have been pretty busy. We've, so we're hopefully starting to see people now coming out. They're starting to get sick of their lockdown or COVID fatigue. I keep hearing that term thrown around. I think people are getting ready to be out of the house. And like I said, we've seen it over the past couple of weeks. So as far as out of home, people are looking at the basics of billboard strength that we've always had: cost effective, highly visible, it's unavoidable. With digital, quickly change your message. There's no production costs. And now layer on these new geopath metrics that we have, we can really narrow down target market to make it the most effective campaign. That we've never been able to do this in the past. We can even get as so granular as particular neighborhoods. We can say, okay, if somebody lives in this particular neighborhood, how can we target them? What billboard are they likely to drive by the most? So this is stuff we've never been able to have in the past. Some of the current programs that people are running, we're doing the reopening, a lot of reopening, countdowns, the contactless pay, new precautions, special offers. These are all things, like Kristin mentioned, that need to be mentioned so people feel safe. But I think there's now a step that, okay, now we need to really talk about what are we really going to offer? What's our new promotion? So with digital, that seems to be the way people are trying to get that message out. Some of the other messages seem to be more of a human connection. Restaurants are saying, we miss you. Are you sick of cooking? Come in, we have patio seating available. Gyms are making a play on the COVID-19. They're calling it COVID-19 pounds, try and lose that. Real estate has been very big down in Fairfield County. It's not as big up here, but it sounds like a lot of New Yorkers are trying to flee the city and get into the Fairfield County. So people are advertising, looking for a new home office, with a little play on words. We just did a program yesterday for a warehouse company. They're looking to hire back CDL, forklift, line operators. So they're going to be using digital and promoting all 3 positions. With the flexibility with digital, if one of those positions happens to fill, say they finish their forklift drivers and they don't need anymore, we can pull that copy out and just switch to CDL and line operators. We seem to be getting a lot from the boating and RV industry, lawyers. A lot of local banks have reached out, or a couple local banks with the PP loans. They've had a nice hit. And political seems like it's going to be a big push this year too, with few in-person events this year. It looks like they're going to be pushing towards advertising that will for all of us. So just a final thought, I guess. I think my 5 minutes are probably up, but to me, it doesn't have the same feeling as 08, our downturn. Back then, it seemed like we knew that was going to be long-lasting. Today, it feels like we're at the starting gate. To me, seem like people are ready to get out of their homes. They're ready to start getting back to regular life. And for advertisers, if you're running a campaign right now, whatever medium it is, if it's working, don't stop now. Now is the time to stay visible, stay top of mind. There's an opportunity in some of these industries where people have cut back and you can take a bigger share of that market, or at least get a head start on your competition. So I think there's a lot of opportunity right now for the business place. So I think, a lot of these businesses really should stick with it and take advantage. That's all I have, Bob.
Eric, thank you. And I see, I know what you're talking about. I see the traffic increasing on the roads around where I am here in Southern Connecticut. And as that happens, as more people start commuting, as more people start going to the beach and to the parks and everything, they're going to be driving past billboards. They're going to be listening to the radio when they're coming and going. So that bodes well for our first two speakers. Anyway, so what we see happening is that the metrics for and the viewership for TV, especially news programming, and the amount of streaming that's going on now is way up. Also, the amount of social media being consumed, the amount of multi-screening happening is way up also. And our next two speakers will talk about that. Brian Blair is our digital product specialist here at BAM, and Brian is going to speak to his experience with SEM, web development, and social media advertising that is going on right now, and how that can be a big advantage going forward in marketing your way back.
Hi, everyone. Bob, thanks for having me. Kristen, you can definitely put me down as a guy who needs and would go out and get a haircut. And thanks for everyone for showing up. A little bit about myself. If you don't know me, I've been designing and developing websites and applications for the internet since before Google started in '98. I've worked with Bob for the past 4 years, and he has taught me countless amounts of the unique marketing needs for small and medium-sized businesses in this community. In that time, me and Bob have worked tirelessly at honing the process of a modern digital advertising campaign down to the slightest details. But without getting into all that nerd speak, we basically break it down into three major areas of focus, which would be the campaign, the conversion, and the quantifying of all of those results. And now in this time of COVID, it's even more important that a business would concentrate on what their message is, what they're trying to say to their desired audience. Your campaign would be whatever that message is, and who you're trying to say it to. A conversion would be the measure of whatever you want them to do. It could be a sale, it could be an app download, it could be a lead form filled out on a website. But most importantly, I think, is the quantification of all of these results, and understanding the key performance indicators that you're looking for, whether this be a pay-per-click campaign, social media marketing, which is, like Bob said, the traffic there is right now through the roof. A lot of people are spending their time on social media. That's a great way for businesses who may not have ventured into the realm of social media marketing to now is a great time to start a Facebook campaign and get in front of the eyes that are potential customers and old customers. Let them know that you're reopened for business. Let them know that you have outdoor seating. Let them know the changes that you've made to try to increase that customer confidence. So that's a basic recipe, a basic outline for our recipe for success. I don't think many of us were prepared for the COVID-19 pandemic or could anticipate many of the unique challenges presented for small businesses. Some people froze and shuttered and closed down their businesses, and I saw a lot of others just roll up their sleeves and hit the problems head on. And Kristen, you mentioned Itero. I can't think of a better example of a company that just hunkered down, figured out the problems that they had to face, and handled them one at a time. They basically rewrote their entire playbook on how to sell appliances. Normally they would have people that would come into the store and make decisions and tinker with knobs and touch, feel, order, and then go. None of that could happen at this time. So we set up a 5-point plan to address all their customers' concerns. Number one is in-store. We set up an online appointment form so they could schedule private in-store consultations with iTuro specialists. It allows them to choose a time, and it doesn't allow them to be double booked or overbooked. It even allows for a little bit of time in between appointments so they could regroup, debrief, write whatever important details down, whatever they need. It's a real human approach to just making that customer, getting them in and making them feel like really special, really exclusive way of purchasing whatever they need. Next would be the Zoom video, which everyone's been on Zoom lately. Everyone knows how to use it. A lot of people have been working remotely with it. And this offered us a way to provide a video shopping experience with an iTuro specialist. The salespeople would have iPads that were hooked up to Zoom. It was pretty seamless. Again, using the online appointment form, it's a totally different type of appointment type, so it would fall into a different basket, a different person, probably a different iPad as well. Next would be on the phone. This, honestly, it's probably the most basic, but I think one of the most important. Everyone knows how to use a phone. So, you know, perhaps an elderly person with a broken refrigerator, they're going to use this. And it's super easy, especially on mobile, just a simple click to call. You don't have to read the phone number. That one button, just call us and you're talking to an iTuro specialist. After that is good old shopping online, which we all know how to do at this day and age. It's completely easy, reliable, and your stuff gets delivered in a day or two. All the products are there. You can do your research and then check out securely. This, I believe, they've always had set up, but it was now more important than ever. And then lastly, is the standard of modern communication these days, which is text messaging. Everyone loves to text, and it all happens with this super easy little icon down in the lower right-hand corner where they can just fill out their name, phone number, and what they're looking for, and somebody can get right back to them. The metrics on texting are through the roof. It happens very quickly, and it really it takes the friction out of communication. Now, all these efforts virtually eliminated all the friction in the customer's buying journey. In the days to weeks to follow, we were really happy to hear that appointments and Zoom calls were happening every day, keeping them afloat in this crisis. And we quickly learned that we were onto something. This can be adapted to almost any business, no matter what your campaign, conversion, or quantification is. So, you know, maybe the little boutique, a restaurant that needs an online ordering platform for takeout or delivery. You really just have to look at what your conversion is and how we can get in front of people and make it absolutely frictionless for them to make a sale. I firmly believe that this is going to keep businesses afloat during this crisis. So I'm not sure if I went over my 5 minutes, but that's what I got for you, Bob.
If you did, it was great information. Thanks, Brian. We, more than ever, the synergy between what Brian does for us and what we get from our media partners is very, very evident. We know there's a lot of multi-screening going on, and people are tuning in to watch the news, whether it be a local news, one of the local network affiliates, or news on cable. They're watching the news, but we find that a lot of them are doing it with an iPad on their lap and an iPhone in their hand, or some kind of a smart device in their hand. And to talk to us today about the advantages of advertising on TV, and specifically on cable, is our friend Jim Simonetti from Effectv. Jim, we're glad to have you. Jim is coming at us today from a deli on Arthur Avenue in the Bronx, as you can see.
I have to pay tribute to our host, don't I?
You do.
Thanks, Bob. I appreciate it. And thanks for inviting me today. As a television guy, there's two quick facts. And then I'd like to give you some observations on how our local clients are dealing with this time period we're in. First of all, old-fashioned television is alive and well. Anybody that watched the Last Dance, Michael Jordan story on ESPN, it was a 10-part series, aired Sunday nights from 9 to 11 p.m. And the first run averaged about 6.5 to 6.8 million people each episode, each night in first run. That's unprecedented for ESPN, the highest documentary viewing they ever had on first run. Second thing is, because we are sheltering in place at home, yes, television viewing is up. And we do realize that at some point, people are going to go back to their basic, media habits. One thing I do want to say with all the panelists, today, including Bob, there's not one medium that is going to meet every expectation you have. So develop the relationships you can and work with the best media reps, that you feel can meet your expectations. I'm Jim Simonetti, as area sales manager for Effectv, which is the advertising division of Comcast Xfinity. I work with 2 local sales managers, 14 account executives, whose 100% book of business is local, not national, not regional. We work with local owners, board of directors, marketing managers, and local advertising agencies like BAM to align our all-screen video portfolio to meet our clients' expectations. When Bob came up with the topic, like, what are smart advertisers? How are they dealing with the current state of business? I actually looked at it not necessarily from a television angle, but I looked at it as a business model. We try to focus when we work with our clients on clients' expectations and their business model. Where are they? Where were they, and where do they want to go? So I kind of look back at first quarter, and prior to March 13th, when we went into the stay home and be sheltered in place. What were our advertisers doing then, and what did they do when we got the message, and then how are they coming out of it now? The first category is messaging. What are their creative messaging that they're currently on the air with? What we're finding is that there's a lot being written about COVID fatigue messaging. Is at a peak right now, and now actually being perceived as a negative. It's similar to the term political ad fatigue. As you know, during election time, when we're constantly bombarded with negative ads, both radio, digital, television, it just kind of becomes white noise, and it becomes a negative. Most marketers right now are saying we are at that point. Messages have now pivoted to focus on how you, the retailer, can serve your customers right now, and then when they return to your location, how are you going to make them feel comfortable? So I looked at a couple of ad campaigns, and I looked at a couple of copies that we've been airing in the last couple of weeks, and also discussions moving forward with strategy sessions we're having with our clients. And topics that are coming up are you implementing new sanitizing procedures? Are you creating safe seating arrangements to meet the social geographic distancing guidelines? Does your business model support taking reservations? Are you set up for online e-commerce? Can you move to cashless transactions? Are you equipped to fulfill online consultations similar to iToro? Garden centers, nurseries, paint stores, windows, roofing, carpet stores, furniture stores could almost do an analysis of what the consumer needs through digital transaction through the web. I looked at the current clients that stayed on air and that returned with a little bit different message. A couple of our home business cleaning services have now starting to promote having them go in before your office or your retail store actually opens up for a deep cleanse before the employees come back. Home improvement stores promoting curbside pickup, delivery to your driveway. Great time to update windows, doors, roofing, gazebos. With tax returns, hopefully coming in and the new stimulus check, a lot of that discretionary money could go into home improvement. Education. A couple of our clients have noticed that there's been an inquiry from adults looking to what the new term is called upskilling, realizing either they're unemployed and will remain to be unemployed, or they want to basically upskill their current curriculum. They're now taking online classes, and in some cases, they're taking non-credit courses just to improve their skill set to helpfully get a new job. A strange increase in pawn shops. People looking for quick cash, they're open and they're doing very well. So if you've got some old jewelry laying around or some art or some china or whatever, silver, head to a pawn shop. Financial institutions have mentioned that mortgage applications are up due to low interest rates, and a lot of people are using their mobile banking apps. The second thing I noticed with our client base, our local client base, going from Q1 to where we are right now, there's a lot of talk about geography. As we're moving through this pause in our business models, we're finding that local advertisers are reassessing what we know as their primary geographic target trading area, and they're tightening it up. The words broad, wide, large areas, those should be a component of an ad plan. It doesn't represent the efficiencies that a zip code or cable zone qualitative consumer focus campaign can bring to the table. With the majority of the workforce working from home, and with companies giving the green light to do so, a local business must reassess your primary geographic target trading area. Think about this. Those working from home, us, are now reevaluating where we're going to receive our consumer services. Medical professionals like a primary care physician, eye care, dentist, car services, banking, stylists, food, clothing, whatever. Pre-COVID, prior to March 13th, we would utilize a lot of these businesses that were close to our office as we spent a majority of our time there. And it was convenient to make appointments within our workday. Now, working from home, traveling back to the town of our office might be a waste of time. And right now in this stay home, stay safe environment may not be plausible. However, it looks like we're exiting that phase. In summary, the consumer has and always will be the driving force of our economy. Consumer sentiment, consumer confidence are key in getting the cash flowing back into our businesses. We can't control when and how our consumer confidence will return. However, we can control how to maintain and grow our share of voice as they slowly guide back into the purchase funnel while developing new methods of commerce that support how they purchase our products. I hope these tips help you in getting an edge in your competition and redeveloping loyalty from your consumers.
Jim, that was great. Thank you. Thank you for your perspective and that big wheel of Reggiano Parmigiano in back of you there. Can you please bring that home for me? That's great. Okay, 1 second, and I think we're good. So I'd like to talk about some of the things that we've been observing and things we've learned from dealing with this crisis. And I can tell you that it's not a lot different from some of the other crises that we've managed our clients through. We've been through 9/11 and we've been through recessions and things like that. And what we see here is ways to, there's actually some advantages to marketing right now. I'm going to pull up a slide here, 1 second. Those of you in media might recognize the Burrell research that we have on the screen here. And what this shows you is that during a crisis like this, there's a big boost in media usage. According to Nielsen, there was Burrell said there's a 60% growth in media usage. We've seen research that pins it up closer to 85%. And unfortunately, as our media partners would also tell you, there's about a 40. This was way back when there was only a 40% reduction in ad buying. Unfortunately, it's actually greater than that. So what happens is you have a larger audience and less ad clutter. Now, when you have a larger audience and less ad clutter, your message is heard more often. You have what we call a larger share of voice. So if you were on let's say a radio station with 20 car dealers, and all of a sudden there's 4 on, instead of having 1/20th of that of share of voice in that vertical, you have a quarter of it. You have 25% share of voice amongst automotive advertisers. And what you can see here is that what's happening is that as we start returning to normal, what's going to happen is that advantage is going to start disappearing. So kudos to you who have kept advertising. By doing so, you are securing a larger share of the marketplace. You're capturing market share, and you're doing so with efficiencies that we haven't really heard about, seen in a long time. So what have smart marketers been doing? Smart marketers have been developing appropriate messages. The messages that aired, the commercial messages that are airing in January and February just we're not sensitive at all, and those messages have been tweaked. We've been doing a lot of that. Smart marketers have been taking advantage of that soft media market and getting more media bang for the same dollars from TV, radio, outdoor, everywhere. Smart marketers are selling while others are not selling, and smart marketers are stealing market share from their dormant competitors. We had a question that we received from one of our B2B viewers today, Joanne. I think Joanne is with Allied Communications, and she wanted to know if it was insensitive to sell during this crisis. And Joanne, what I would say is if people wanted to buy your service and your products before, and they need it now, why wouldn't you sell it to them? It's not insensitive at all. In fact, it's smart. If you don't sell them, if you're not there for them, then they'll just go to your competitor. So we don't want that to happen. So we urge you to adjust your messaging and certainly keep selling. Oops. This is how we kind of refer to businesses that have gone dark, that have gone silent. They're kind of like ostriches. They stuck their head in their sand, and sooner or later, they're going to pull their head out of the sand, and not much is going to happen. I've spoken to businesses that were waiting for May 20th to open their doors, and they did, and not much happened. We know that they'll come back because they're smart, but when I was putting this together today, I thought about a webinar I watched yesterday. As a matter of fact, it was from Effectv. And one of the guests on that webinar I watched was Kevin O'Leary. And Kevin said, if you are silent, the customer will forget about you and go somewhere else. Mr. O'Leary is not known for his sensitivity, but he is known for being a savvy businessman. And I think in this case, he's right. So let's talk a little bit about the different phases of brand narratives and advertising during COVID-19. The first phase was education, and that's where we were telling you to wash your hands and stay home and stay safe, and all the brands kind of embraced that messaging. Then there was solidarity. Solidarity is where we were kind of doing virtual hugs with each other, saying a lot of we're in this together, thank you heroes. We all learned how to Zoom. We were into home improvement, and we were hoarding toilet paper. Now we're in this new normal, and in the new normal, we're going to embrace what was working and incorporate it into our brand's DNA. I think of the iToro website modification that we made that Brian showed you before. Many of those things, like making appointments to come into a store, to reserve your own time, and texting right from the website, those are not going to go away. Brands are committed to keeping what works, and smart brands will do that. It'll become part of the essence of who they are. And return to selling. I'm thinking a lot about some of the good brands that are on TV and the personalities that they have. And I always think about Jan from Toyota and Jake from State Farm. It's amazing, especially the Jan from Toyota story. They made her the spokesperson for the brand, kind of in phase 2. And she's so believable as a real person that she was able to come out and deliver a brand message for Toyota. And now I see her standing in front of dealerships and talking about leases again. So they're making this seamless return to marketing and using her. And Jake from State Farm, they used him also to do some crisis messaging. Oops, wrong. I shared the wrong screen there. I'm sorry. We'll get to the right screen. So anyway, we're in the new normal now, and I have to laugh about phase 1 and phase 2. When I watch these national ads on TV, I saw a lot of this going on, and I had this picture of this guy at an agency with this big magnetic board and these big words that he would move around on the wall and come up with all the commercials, and then he would find someone to buy from some stock somber piano music from, and they put together a commercial in kind of in the manner that you see in this cartoon, which I think is probably pretty accurate. So messaging, we're coming out of this, we've gone away from this messaging that said we're open for business, and then we went into this messaging that said we're COVID compliant, and advertisers were telling us that they were sanitizing high touch areas and washing their hands and things. And now it's a little bit of an exaggeration, but we're kind of getting into this area where we're saying to, this is kind of, Memorial Day, right up, in this area, Memorial Day weekend, and it's okay to get to messaging now where we're talking about products and offers again. So we're going to see a lot of that going on. This is interesting. This is showing us that in March, 32% of brands globally had already produced campaigns that were responding to the crisis. And it wasn't necessarily we're all in this together advertising, but it was certainly advertising that was adjusted to be sensitive to the crisis. In April, over 2/3 of brands globally had done that. Fascinating. And it says, it really, I tip my hat to the brands that were able to pivot quickly and adjust their messaging. Going forward, what should we do? Number 1, don't hibernate. Number 2, embrace the new media consumption habits. People are using media differently. Number 3, be creative. What you say right now is so much more important than the production value right now. We have clients that we've coached through producing commercials from home, getting them to record voiceovers actually on their iPhones and send us the file, and then we produce that into TV and radio advertising. And very important right now that you live your brand promise. Here is an example from a couple of our clients. The Garavell Auto Group, their slogan is, selling cars is what we do, helping the community is who we are. Every month they have a charity of the month, and now it's more important than ever to live those brand values. Itoro Appliance, their slogan, the core message in their advertising is helping you live a better life. Last week, the Itoro family, Antonia Itoro, took one of those great kitchens that they have at Itoro Appliance in Norwalk and repurposed it to cook meals for the Domestic Violence Crisis Center. Unfortunately, DVCC, the services they offer is needed more than ever during this crisis, and the Itoro family stepped up to help them. So live that brand promise. Embrace your brand promise. Words are cheap. You gotta demonstrate it right now, because long after this is over, consumers will remember how you made them feel. Very, very important. So thank you. Thank you for being with us today. It has been our pleasure to present this to you today. If you run a small business, medium business, and you want to get in touch with me, we're always happy to have a conversation. As a matter of fact, I think everybody who participated in this today is happy to talk to you. We'll be circulating contact information for all our panelists shortly after this wraps up today. So thank you, Kristin, Jim, Eric, Brian, and Dan. We wish all of you a happy Memorial Day weekend, and thanks again for being with us today.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
Thanks, Bob.
Thanks, Bob. Enjoy your weekend.
Thank you. You too, everybody. Bye-bye. Stay safe.